Welcome to the first installment of Autobeam Modding for Dummies, or the second take of the video, because the first one decided it wanted to commit unalive and completely bug out, so take two. First thing you want to do is unpack your mod. You want to find your mod in your mods folder. You're going to want to click on it and click unpack. There we go. You want to unpack your mod. Once you have it unpacked, you want to go into Beam. You want to pick any map you want. It doesn't matter which, but personally I recommend Grid Small Pure, as it's the quickest and easiest to load and doesn't cause any issues when constantly refreshing a car. Okay, once you're in beamng, you're going to find your car. I've had to nuke automation today, so my computer's struggling to download it and mod beamng at the same time. Okay, once you find your car though, you're going to want to spawn it in. Any day now, computer, come on. Okay, now that I've got the car spawned, you're going to want to find the unpacked mod in your mods folder. You can do this one of two ways. You can either go to mods and open mod folder, or if you've done some stuff before, you can have a shortcut, which I do right here. You want to go to the unpacked section though, and you're going to find your car. Since I'm editing a friend's, it's right here. This is an older car though, so it's slightly different. This one looks like to be a modified 4.1 car, or a mesh lap of one. But, so it doesn't have any of the extra stuff. So if your car is a modern export, let's just go with this one that I have. When you open it, you're going to have a bunch of extra stuff and then these extra folders. Your main JBeam is what you're after. It'll be in this randomly generated 5-digit ID folder. It'll be the 5-digit ID again with the main JBeam. That is what you're looking for. But in this case, since it's an older version of the car, it'll be right here. It'll just be the name of the car for this one. But if you're on a modern, it has the 5-digit ID underscore JBeam. Or main JBeam. Once you open it though, you're going to want to scroll down past all this stuff till you're here. This is your node, weight, name, and location. You have X, Y, and Z coordinates, just like a coordinate grid. These are what make up the JBeam or hitbox of your car. All beamng mods use these. Some are simple, some are complex. Automation are relatively simple. Now what you're going to want to do is go back into Beam. You're going to press Control T and Control N. Now this car has breakable fixtures and a lot of lights. So there's a lot more nodes on this car than there would be on one that is relatively simple. Let me spawn in a decently simple car that doesn't have a lot of lights on it. I do believe this one. I'm sorry, I'm still a little sick, so trying to do this is a bit of a struggle. You can see this one's a lot simple. You can even make it more simple by going to Config, Debug, Show Wheels. As you can see, this one doesn't have breakable fixtures, it just has the lights for the dash, front, and rear. But even if your car has breakable fixtures or a bunch of lights, it doesn't matter. You can still get rid of the wheels. It'll simple it up just a bit. All you're after for are these types of nodes. A, and then a number from 0 to 95. As you can see here. This is a J-beam I've shaped myself on my brand new released Evo mod. But that's a story for another day. So let me remove this. And what we're going to want to do is adjust the names of all these. Or not the names, but the locations of all of these. So here with your X, your Y, and your Z, the X is how far in they are. And it's in meters. So we have 0.75 of a meter. That's how far in the car is. So the car is off of this node. If I had to take a guess, it's right around 8 meters wide, maybe, give or take. Probably a little wider. But this right here is how far forward or back you want to send the node on the Y coordinate grid. Automation cars are backwards. Further into the positive, the further back the node will go. Further into the negative, the further the front the node will go. Don't ask me why it's backwards, it just is. And then you have Z, which is how far up or how far down you want to move the node height-wise. You can either send it to the moon or send it to the underworld. And what you're going to want to do is shape these to the car to the best of your ability. On a really curvy supercar, you may have a little bit of jank. There's no getting around it, considering sometimes you can break the suspension by having a node too high up, too far down, or clipping through, because the suspension needs a set amount of space between beams and nodes for it to work properly. But what you're going to want to do is just shape the nodes to the car. So let's just eyeball it here. I've already done this, so I think I remember what it was. I think it was 2.5 there, but 2, so 2.25 meters. That's how far back you want it. And then for the node height, I'm going to take a guess and put it at about 7.3. I think that's what I set it to beforehand. Now, inset wise, it's a little different. For the length and height, it's the same across all nodes. But inset, since the nodes have to be different, these have to be wider, the two inside, so since it starts at A0 and goes to A3, A1 and 2 will have to stay evenly in the center of the car, essentially. So usually whatever the default width is fine. So 2.5 or 0.25. I'll keep this at 0.75 for now. I usually tend to just get rid of all the extras and only move it as much as I need to. Makes it look a little cleaner and a little easier to understand, because, I mean, this just looks like a mess. But once you're editing the nodes, be sure to edit in Notepad++, because it will create backups, so that way, in case you mess something up, you can load a backup and you're fine. You want to press Control-S to save, go back into Beam, and then press Control-R. And then boom, the car has refreshed. I got it pretty much right first try, so that's good. Outside of right here, the node's a little too far out and a little too far out in both ways. So what we can do is set this to 0.71, and then change this to about 0.74. That should be good enough. Oh, that's right. Whoops. I made a mistake there. That was the height that I just, not this. Okay, so 2.24 and 0.74. That's what I meant to do. There you go. See how there's a slight bend in it now? That's what you want. Ideally, you want a little bit of the node to be poking out, because what Beam does is it'll deform the node itself, then start deforming the mesh. And if you want the collision to look about as accurate as you can get it for an automation car, that's what you're going to want to do. So for here, we're going to leave this at 0.86, 0.86. Now these are 0.25, 0.29. I'm going to change it to 0.25. It keeps it nice and even across the whole car. We're going to leave these at 1.62, and we're going to change this to 0.65. As you can see here, that these nodes are actually blocking the suspension. That's not good. So once you change the height, see how much more suspension travel room you get on this side of the car. Granted, you're probably going to bottom out on this side first. There's no getting around it. But if you had to hit something on this side, you'll hit the tire before you hit the car itself. It's poking up slightly, but usually I like to do that just so you get that little bit of extra room. And it's hardly noticeable. Now usually these nodes right here, such as A12, will be at the correct height you want, so you can copy the height from there. It's at 0.579. That's close enough. We'll round it to 0.58. You're going to want to paste it along all the nodes on the bottom of the car. Usually it'll go up to 23 for this middle section of the car. So find 23 and move it up. And then boom, there you go. I want to tuck this in just a little, so we're going to go with just 8.5 flat because it was so close to being 8.6. Put these to 5, then even this out. And then you would do the same for all of these. Now, once you're done moving every single node to match the rough shape of the car, you're going to want to go and fix the underside, because the engine and transmission can poke out occasionally, and what you're going to want to do is move it to the floor height that you gave it. So what you're going to do is move it up, but you also have to move the engine nodes, otherwise you can cause the engine to start starving of oil. Don't ask me why it does that. I think it's because the general shape of the engine is used as reference for the oil and simulation and all that other stuff. So you have to move the intake nodes up as well. Transmission, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't mess anything up if you don't, but I do just to be safe. And then voila, you've fixed the hitbox of a automation car. Next episode, I will show off how to fix lights, so you can get some proper working lights, like out of a beamng car.